That's why people prefer to pick fish from Homa Bay and bring it to Thika or bring it to Nairobi or bring it to Nakuru. We are killing certain economies of this country.
I want to move on to something else, but let's close on that.
We are bringing cold and hot here together. Mheshimiwa Senator says in his county they are producing 40 megawatts. Now he says they cannot even run a generator. I'm certain
I think that the president...
Sorry, Moses Kajwang
is a president in waiting.
Moses Wetangula.
Yeah, Wetangula.
You will be president.
Wetangula is a president in waiting.
I was told that if you are beaten up by then you can't be president.
That's for another. Let's talk about the presidential appointments. The president, as one, should change a big part of this country. If you look at the narrative of presidential appointments, not just the last ones, but even the past ones that the president has done, you can clearly see a pattern that is emerging, that dominantly it takes care of people from certain parts of this country, and those are people who supported the Jubilee coalition. That is extremely dangerous, Mike, because remember, the president won, in quotes, because we still don't think he won, by 0.07%, 50.07%. He crossed the +1% by 0.07%.
That was a win.
Well, you can call it a win, but we call it a fraud and a theft. But be that as it may, there is 49.93% that feels progressively excluded from state appointments. So that is one thing. And in the president's manifesto, there was something he was calling Usawa, that he wants national cohesion. He wants everyone to be Kenya.
My greatest tussle internally in terms of the Code Coalition is to have that ideological purity, or that in a manner that we could not just be a tsunami that carries everything in it. You know, you see a former loot of the Moi regime is now a key person in the Code Coalition. I take great reservations or exceptions with that type of construct, because there's no reforms then we can promise the Kenyan people. You come as you're a patron of resources and you can literally take over a party because you finance it. These are things that ideologically I speak about internally. Today this country is headed in such a an extraordinarily anxious situation where the positioning. Once we come to elective politics and leadership across the tiers of government, the court is not just producing the people who can give us the good democratic governance, creed. It's not producing people who are giving opportunities to those who can be able to champion, a developmental agenda without corruption. So I think we need to have a very internal conversation. So the fact that you appointed Henry Koskei doesn't mean I approve of Henry Koskei, I myself. The fact that, yes, you might support us at a time in history, but it does not mean necessarily have approval for that. Number two, don't also be selective. You're picking the good ones. Paul Taggart is an extraordinary Kenyan in terms of his achievements. So but you see, you mar that in a whole host of then tribalized appointments that have very, very, that considerations were based on anything but merit. So that you then now camouflage. So here you are. Let's say, let me be honest with you. I have a soft spot for this 33-year-old permanent secretary. But you see, once you put some competence, permanent secretary in the transport ministry, let's say John Mushero, a great guy in terms of his field of work, but then you bring in a bit of competence, then might, in an ethnic and other forms of arrangement. So even those good men there appear to swim in a very reluctant political mood. So I think what we need to do is to have a litany of appointments that meets public expectation and the expectations of the Constitution.
Okay, but before I come to Ambrose Weda on the same, ODM and CORD say they're government in waiting. But when we look at the structure and the leadership of CORD right now, what's the difference between the current selection that we have in terms of recycling and the leadership of CORD? Because we'd imagine then we should have some young blood there.
But I'm a leader in the CORD coalition. I'm a very, very respected leader in the CORD coalition. I'm the Secretary General of a party, and I'm a member of the CORD management board. And let me tell you, and it's about how also you resonate, and this young issue.
You hit the nail on the head. They talk of old and young. You've just asked him a question. He's just cutting around. Look at the leadership of CORD. There are the two CORD principles, or are they three? Past 60 years. Actually, all of them are about 63, 65, and the other one is about 70. Look at even Musela, who is on the wings. Look at who else. There's Musela, there's Mudhamia.
Then there's Omar, there's Abab.
There's just Omar and
all right.
Just three of them.
Then Moses Kajwang.
Let me hear from my friend. Let me hear from
Let us not have double standards.
These CORD people, they amaze me.
Why?
When Raila Odinga's sister is appointed to Mbere, they are quiet. When Jakoyo Midiwo's sister is appointed to Lake Basin, they are quiet. When Weda is appointed to chair Sony Sugar, he says that's a small Napier grass institution which is moribund. Okay? But when Henry Koskei is appointed, recycling, the appointments are done in batches. So you look at them as a whole. That all the appointments that have been done, how many are lawyers, how many are cases, how many are lawyers, how many are canvass, and they are cross-board. You don't take a small batch where maybe Honorable Raila's sister, or you expected Wetangula's sister to be, but she's not there. So you take a small batch and you hammer on it. You take all of them, say, they have appointed 50 parastatal chiefs. How is it distributed? And if you look at it, it's fairly well distributed. It's only that this batch, maybe there was no Luo and there was no Wetangula's relative or Kalonzo's relative that is causing so much fury. But in the next batch, they are coming. Please hold on your horses.
Listen,
when Honorable Raila was Prime Minister, he just appointed his relatives. And I can tell you, close relatives, we made noise.
And I can tell you, that does not make it right. Michael, let me tell you, I'm an advocate internally and externally. In fact, I sat in this very studio, this very, very couch, and said, I hope that Raila's sister will not take that appointment, to send a certain message.
See, and it
And
was
send
a
a certain
good job.
message.
Okay, but at least
so
give-
I think the fact that Raila is doing it does not mean we cannot have a conversation around these issues. So I think let's not use these things. There's a way in which we can do a general critique. Yeah, but you see what happens.